This is Weirdly Enough, your regular podcast for strange stories and amazing facts, delivered straight to your favorite podcast directory and at weirdlyenough.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy and Len.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Weirdly Enough podcast for season 4. We're back again and hopefully with you all for the rest of the year, right up to Christmas now, with lots of weird stories, weird news, and all the things you come to expect from Weirdly Enough in season 4. We have that same intro, and I know we talked about getting like a new intro recorded. Yeah. We'll do that over the summer, we'll do this and do other things over the summer, and none of it worked out. But anyway, we're back, and it doesn't matter what the intro sounds like, really. It's just good to have our listeners with us. Remember, our website is weirdlyenough.com. You can ask your Alexa to play Weirdly Enough podcast, or find us anywhere you usually get podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I can't think of the other ones, but there's a lot of other ones, and we're pretty much everywhere. You can find out everything though at weirdlyenough.com. Remember, we're on Facebook. Just search for Weirdly Enough, or Weirdly Enough PC is our Twitter handle. You can get in touch with us there, or send us a message, podcast at weirdlyenough.com. It'd be great to hear from you. This week then, it's predictive programming, all about predictive programming. What exactly is predictive programming, Liam?
Well, I thought of an alternative title for this show, and you could just have a quote from David Icke.
Oh, right.
And he just says, "Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about."
Yeah.
Just a coincidence, nothing to worry about.
Okay.
I'll start off with a few quotes here, just to sort of pin down definitions. The idea really is, are the sacred unknowns.
Yeah.
Now, you're probably wondering, what are the sacred unknowns? But it's actually a quote, well, it's a term that's used in Godfather 3. Believe it or not, okay. Because and there's a scene where they talk about the sacred unknowns who are like really controlling everything.
Right.
You know, the top level, sort of above mafia and above governments, and above everyone else. You know, so are the sacred unknowns using books, music, and film to prepare the masses for the future? Now, we had a brief allusion to that last week with the story of David Bowie and. I was going to say Kanye West, as an example of possible predictive programming.
Okay.
Now, just a few quick quotes here. Again, we'll go back to Mark Devlin, who we've talked about in the last episode. He gave quite a good quote to us.
Yeah.
And he said, "Predictive programming is the practice of encoding visual clues and symbols into works of popular culture aimed at large audiences.
Okay. And
they depict a real-world event yet to happen or currently happening, in recognition of the powerful influence of the subconscious mind on an individual's psyche. Images are subtly conveyed in encoded form, which foreshadow events which are known to be coming. When the individual's conscious mind is the subject and use of the events in question, memories from the subconscious are unknowingly evoked, bring a type of familiarity with the event. The propaganda of whatever official story the powers that be conduct and unleash via compliant mainstream media are then more than readily absorbed." There's a guy called Alan Watt, who's a Scottish guy, and he's possibly the first to come up with the term predictive programming.
Okay.
And he says, things or ideas which would otherwise be seen as bizarre, vulgar, undesirable, or impossible are inserted into films in the realm of fantasy. When the viewer watches these films, his or her mind is left open to suggestion, and the conditioning process begins.
So who is predictively programming us?
You see, this is now I'm not going to tackle that question in this episode, because you could spend your whole lifetime trying to work out who the sacred unknowns are.
Okay.
I just call them.
Them, yeah.
Or they. I mean, maybe it's as David Icke would have it, the reptilians.
Right. So
maybe it's the Illuminati.
They're kind of elites above everything.
You know, maybe it's the Fourth Reich, based out of Antarctica. Who knows? There's a very good guy, I would encourage everyone to check him out, actually, a guy called Thomas Sheridan.
Right.
Who's an Irish occultist and researcher, and he's big on YouTube. And in a 2014 interview, he gave a description of the reasoning, because this is I mean, we'll do a little rundown later on of some examples, of many examples, but maybe we can try and pin down maybe the reasoning behind why it's been done. And he thinks it's part of an occult belief system where you have to consent. Right, I'll try and explain this. So he says, telling us is part of the magic, we have to consent. That's why they blow the whistle on what they do through all kinds of books and movies and so on. And they often show us a hint of things before they do them. And this is how their sorcery, their black Hexen paganism works. You have to be told. This is why Dracula always knocks on the door and asks to be let in.
Well, vampires have to be let in, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah. The devil has to be invited in. And then you forfeited your right to say, I was taken by surprise. No, you brought it on yourself. So you invited the devil in. And this is why we all have to learn what they're doing to us. We have to learn wordplay and neuro-linguistic programming, because that's the only thing that's keeping them in power, is their acquiescence to their pathological drive.
Right.
And the best weapon we have against them is our refusal. Have you ever heard of a guy called Mark Passio?
No, I can't say I have.
Mark Passio is an American guy, and he's a former Satanist. Who turned to the light side. And again in 2014, he did a wee interview where he gave an insight into the modus operandi of the sacred unknowns, where he says one of the dark principles of their ideological talents is if you tell people what you're doing, even if it's telling them wordlessly through symbols or numbers, then you've somehow gotten their implied consent because they haven't said no. And not to say no is to tacitly say yes in their mentality, so that in their mind that relieves the burden of karma that would ordinarily come down upon them for directing these actions. In their mind, because they told you in a wordless occult way, that in some way alleviates the karma because they did say it in some form. It's a sick, twisted way of looking at it. So basically this is all, the reasoning behind this is, in their, allegedly the sacred unknowns have this occult belief system where part of it is to avoid the karma of being bad. Tell your victim first. So if your victim doesn't do anything, then they've acquiesced, so I mean you don't suffer the karma.
Strange. Which
is complete BS, I think, but I mean it's there's a little quote from the Truman Show that in a weird kind of way sort of alludes to this, where it's, do you remember the character Christoph who orchestrated the whole thing in the Truman Show?
No, I think I've seen the Truman Show, but I don't remember any characters or anything like that.
The Truman Show is actually a fascinating film, and I mean I enjoyed it when I first watched it, but it's one of those films, if you watch it a few times, there's more and more layers of depth to the Truman Show, and I sometimes wonder, is it really almost explaining life? In a weird kind of way. But there's a quote here where it says, he, meaning Truman, could leave at any time if it was more than just a vague ambition. If he was absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's no way we could prevent him.
Right, so he doesn't want to.
So maybe we're all Truman. Maybe if we stepped outside we could
follow the blue pill or the red pill.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is. Yes.
Another great example is, do you remember The Wicker Man?
I love The Wicker Man.
1973. Edward Woodward's character is Sergeant Hoey. Now he's considered fair game as a human sacrifice to be burnt in The Wicker Man by Lord Summerisle, played by Christopher Lee. Because he came to the isolated Scottish island of Summerisle.
Your own free will. That's what he always says. Yes.
He wasn't forced. And he made the choice, and if you remember The Wicker Man, time and time again, there's points where he could back off, but he just presses and presses and presses. So what do you do? It's all about Trump on this podcast, I think. Trump's one of these characters. He's about like Crowley. We circle round and round and round and come back on certain characters.
Right,
Crowley comes up time and time again, Bowie comes up time and time again, so does Trump. Comes up time and time again. It all circles round. It's the conspiracy map of all these little things that underlink. Have you ever heard of a guy called Ingersoll Lockwood?
No, but it's a fascinating name.
There's a bit of a sensation a few years ago. It was highlighted by US media because there's some weird parallels between a book he wrote and Trump. 1889.
Right.
Ingersoll Lockwood, he was an American lawyer turned novelist, wrote a children's book called The Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bulger. And 4 years later, he wrote a sequel called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
And that's Trump's son's name, isn't it, Baron Trump?
The stories detail the adventures of a young German lad called Wilhelm Heinrich Sebastian von Trump, also known as Baron Trump. And young Trump discovers a secret portal that lets him time travel and encounter weird underground civilizations, Hollow Earth. Circling back again to earlier episodes of the podcast, it all links up after a while, like, you know. Now, this work was languishing in obscurity until 2017, when US media noticed the uncanny parallels with the new POTUS, Donald Trump. Chris Riotta wrote an article for Newsweek magazine where he looked at the weird parallels. Trump, who is an aristocratically wealthy young man living in Castle Trump, is the protagonist of Lockwood's first 2 novels. The little boy, who has an unending imagination and a very active brain, is bored of his luxurious lifestyle. But like Trump, got bored of his lifestyle, decided to become Now this is where it gets really funny and weird. Guess where his adventures begin?
Germany,
Russia,
right? Okay.
And are guided thanks to directions provided by this is hilarious, the master of all masters, a man named Donald Trump. Yeah.
There we go. Where we have it. Yeah.
And the protagonist of the novels lives in Castle Trump, and Donald Trump's main HQ is Trump Towers in New York.
Towers, yeah.
And the Russian link is reminiscent of the claims of Russian interference in 2016 in the elections, and also things like Paygate, but we don't even want to go there. Paygate.
Maybe we'll talk about that off the podcast.
Maybe so. Yeah, it's kind of a bit.
But did he not say he wasn't into all that?
Yeah, I know. We're getting a bit off track here. 3 years after the second Baron Trump novel, Lockwood penned another story. This one was called 1900, or The Lost President. 1900 features a wealthy man with an HQ on Fifth Avenue in New York. Guess where Trump Towers is?
Fifth Avenue.
In New York, yeah.
Right,
who becomes the president against the odds and faces loads of opposition. Do you not think this is a bit weird?
Yeah, definitely.
The novel starts in early November. Quick quote. This is from 1900. The entire east side is in a state of uproar. Police officers shouted through the streets, warning city folk to stay indoors for the night. Mobs of vast size are organising under the lead of anarchists and socialists.
Right.
This was written in 1900. He threatened to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. And this is very reminiscent of things like, like the pink pissy protests and whatnot, Now this is mental. This is all true. In the novel, the president has a secretary of agriculture called Leif Pence.
The Mike Pence.
Which is very similar to Mike Pence, who's Donald Trump's vice president. Another weird one here. Round about the time the Baron Trump stories were published, another American writer called Morgan Robertson published a story called Futility in 1898.
Yeah.
And this was the story of an ocean liner called the Titan.
Right.
Which crosses the Atlantic at great speed in the month of April. And the Titan is considered unsinkable. The Titan collides with an iceberg and sinks 400 miles from Newfoundland, with loss of many passengers due to lack of lifeboats. 14 years later, in April 1912, the Titanic sank in exactly the same circumstances, approximately 400 miles from Newfoundland. So that's pretty weird.
Is there a way that this stuff could have just been planted? It actually was just put back into history.
I can provide an alternative explanation for this, and this is a theory I've come across, that time isn't linear.
Yeah.
It's like a circular kind of thing, and sometimes the way like certain events can echo into the future.
Yeah.
Like, say for talk's sake, if you crashed a car, God forbid, that could echo into the future.
Okay.
But there's a theory that it also echoes into the past.
Right.
So you can become almost like subconsciously aware of traumatic or great events years to come, in the past.
But is the theory then that this stuff was predictive programming? It was telling us that these events were going to happen.
The alternative is that the Sacred Unknowns, for whatever reason, orchestrated the Titanic event. And this guy was working for the Sacred Unknowns. And at the time, this is actually a bit of a thing at the time. In 1912, there was a bit of a furore about this guy Robertson and his novel whenever the Titanic happened, because people at the time did notice the similarities. And at the time it was put to Robertson that he was clairvoyant, and he vigorously denied this at the time. So this was an early example of predictive programming. Now I'm just going to run down a few examples in more modern times of modern pop culture. In 1987, the Pet Shop Boys released Actually,
okay,
which you recall. Now there's an album. On this album, it features a track called King's Cross, and there's a line, and it says, "Only last night I found myself lost by the station called King's Cross, dead and wounded on either side. You know it's only a matter of time." Now this was recorded 2 months before a massive fire that devastated the King's Cross tube station and killed 31 people.
Very odd.
Now that's weird. That's weird. And it's very eerie foreshadowing of what would take place. In 2004, BBC's Panorama produced a programme called Panorama London Under Attack, which is a drama documentary that detailed what would happen in the event of a terrorist attack in London. In this scenario, the terror group detonated 3 bombs in the London Underground and 1 bomb on the streets above. And on Thursday, 7th of July 2005, this scenario actually became a reality when 3 bombs were detonated on the tube and the 4th bomb on the streets above. So it paralleled exactly what happened.
So they were predicting.
The huge one is 9/11.
Okay.
And there's so much stuff about 9/11 and predictive programming.
Yeah.
And there's some weird ones that go way back. Supertramp brought out an album in 1979 called Breakfast in America.
Yeah.
Which has some very strange imagery on the cover.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's have a wee look. Just check. I've got my notes.
It kind of has a picture of Manhattan, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a weird image with like a kind of weird image of that waitress.
Yes.
But it shows the view lower Manhattan from the perspective of an airplane window, with a waitress where the Statue of Liberty should be. Right. And the word Supertramp appears over the Manhattan skyline, complete with World Trade Center Twin Towers.
Yeah.
And apparently, when you reverse the image with the help of a mirror, the U and the P of Supertramp, which were partially obscured by the towers, now look like a 9 and 11.
Right,
which might be probably hard to judge on a tablet, but if you printed it out, you might be able to do it.
But the cover, it's all like, it's breakfast things, so there's like salt and pepper shaker, and there's like an egg packet, and toast,
and
knives and forks and cups.
I don't know. It's hard to you probably have to like get a print out, and sort of start messing around with mirrors and stuff like that.
I really don't think Supertramp predicted that, but there you go.
It's a bit out there. Like Terminator 2: Judgment Day, released in 1991, contains a brief shot showing a low bridge with a clearance sign giving the height 9/11.
Right. Okay.
In the film Independence Day, released... Now, I'm not saying I believe us, by the way, I'm just putting it out there. In the film Independence Day, released in 1986, there's a split-second frame in which a digital clock is seen counting down hours, minutes and seconds. The clock just happens to be at 00091101, which would be 9/11/2001.
Then 9/11's a big number anyway, because it's the emergency number in the United States. So 911, 9/11, it's something that's always out there, and it's something that's always gonna probably.
Can I just throw in another strange coincidence there?
What's that?
We're going to be talking in a few weeks about the Paul is Dead, the PID.
Oh yes,
belief.
We're trying that already.
Allegedly, Paul died on 9th of November 1966, which American style would be another 9/11.
9/11.
Say patterns all emerge
No, to
synchronously.
Americans would be 11/9. 9th of November.
Yes, in British style it's 9/11.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Good point, well made. But yeah, patterns.
Yeah.
Now The Simpsons is always a big one because The Simpsons allegedly predicts everything. But in a 1997 episode of The Simpsons, Bart holds up a bus leaflet entitled New York, a massive 9, indicating the ticket is $9, lines up next to the World Trade Center Towers, which gives us 9/11.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So Do you fancy some more weirdness about this?
Yes, go on.
In December 1998, Prince, the artist formerly known as Prince, gave a very strange statement at the end of an overseas concert. He said, "We got one more, then we gotta get out. I gotta go home. I gotta go get ready for the bombs. Osama bin Laden getting ready to bomb. Yeah, 2001, hit me."
Wow.
Now that's pretty weird.
Prince, yeah. And
December 1998. So
3 years before. Yeah.
Now you could arguably, Osama bin Laden, I do believe he was doing terrorist attacks in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So you could have a bit of a stretch, say, well, yeah, it was kind of in the news, but where's 2001 coming from?
Yeah.
Riddle me that. Now, I mean, I know Prince had a bit of a thing, an obsession with sort of the turn of the millennium, turn of the century, 1999, party like it's like. But yeah, why 2001? What's that all about? You know, you could at a stretch maybe say, maybe he's tying in his end of the century obsession with what's going on in the news, but that's maybe a bit of a stretch, you know. In the first Matrix movie from 99, the camera focuses on Neo's passport, and the expiry date is 11th of September 2001.
Right, okay.
Now this is a weird one that you can look up yourself, because this is kind of crazy, and that's the one that nobody's ever heard of. Right? In 2001, in early 2001, there's an obscure rap duo from California called The Coup.
Yeah.
I don't think it did that well.
The Coup. Okay.
Never really made it, like, you know. But they recorded an album called Party Music.
Right.
And the original concept for the album cover features Pam the Funkstress. Funkstress. Pam the Funk. I can't even say.
This sounds like fun.
She's a Funkstress. And she's on drums as Boots Riley. You know Boots Riley?
No.
Big star. Boots
Riley.
Riley.
Boots Riley.
Pam the Funkstress is on drums as Boots Riley presses a remote control detonator in front of an exploding Twin Towers.
Right.
And you can Google it.
Yeah.
So if you Google
the
Coup party music, it should bring it up.
Party music.
Obviously this doesn't work well so much on audio. I think that's the kind of the redone version.
Yeah,
that's the original. Yeah, so that's Pam the Funkstress and Boots Riley pressing his detonator.
Very good.
Yeah, what's that all about? Yeah,
like fun. Yeah.
The scheduled release date for this lost classic, you never guess. Early September 2001.
Wow. Yes, there we go. Again.
The patterns. Seriously, you say when you look at. Did you ever see the film Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Where he kind of goes a bit crazy. He's looking into this stuff, you do kind of turn into Mel Gibson after a while, like, you know, you start kind of ranting about stuff. Post 9/11, this somewhat controversial choice of artwork was pulled by the record stores and an absolute panic by Warner Brothers. They absolutely lost the plot for all those reasons. And it was re-released in 2001 November with a less than century image, which is the one I think we saw there. It's like a
the martini glass,
you know, sort of very bland and generic, you know. Some more examples, getting away from 9/11. Season, and again The Simpsons is a big one for this. Season 20, episode 4 of The Simpsons. I just looked up there and it was 23. The number 23. Do you remember the 23 enigma? We did everything's number 23.
Yes, everything's been number 23, okay.
Yeah. Season 20, episode 4 of The Simpsons, the 19th Tree House of Horror episode, where Homer gets to vote in the 2008 US election for Obama, but the machine miscounts his vote and gives it to John McCain. And in 2012, a video went viral of a vote counting machine doing the exact same thing. Counting a vote for Obama as one for his opponent, Mitt Romney. Classic one is in Star Trek, use of handheld communication devices. Just like cell phones.
Preparedness for cell phones.
Yeah. A lot of people say that, you know, films like The Hunger Games, it's to get you sort of used to the idea of that kind of society.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So we're moving into what David Icke would call the Hunger Games society. Another example is iRobot with the redoubtable Will Smith, that is used to prepare you for the idea of the robots taking over you, the AI.
There must be a lot of stuff around COVID-19 and the pandemic.
Oh, there's tons. I'll get into that in a little second. 2014, South Park had an episode called Gluten Free Ebola.
Right.
And this was season 18, episode 2. A week after this episode aired for the first time on American TV, guess what happened? A new strain of Ebola broke out in Central Africa.
Oh, was it gluten free?
I don't know if it was gluten free, to be fair. And this is another one. Do you ever remember that film Knowing that came out in 2009 with Nicolas Cage?
Can't remember it now, but
There's a scene where he watches a news report about an oil fire in the Gulf of Mexico. And in April 2010, this became a reality. It was the worst marine oil spill in history. And Alex Jones often quotes this as predictive programming. That's quite an obscure one that people don't really know about. Now we'll go into a quick brief one about COVID. Now this is weird.
Yeah.
Now this is one of these ones this is like Barron Trump. I'll throw this.
Okay.
At the skeptics, 2013 DJ Creep, who I've never heard of.
Oh yeah, we all liked a bit of DJ Creep.
But apparently he's a guy, DJ Creep. He released a track called Pandemic, and the lyrics are kind of weird. Listen to this.
Yeah.
2020, he says, right? 2020 combined with coronavirus body stacking. Released that track 2013.
2013 combined with coronavirus body stacking.
2020 combined with coronavirus body stacking.
Body stacking.
Now, again, you could argue 2020 is one of those kind of funny years. It's like 2001. You might sort of bend your consciousness.
It could be 2020 vision as well.
Yeah, because it's one of those sort of landmark kind of years. But why coronavirus? Because before COVID, it's not. You might have talked about Ebola or the Black Death or something like that, but not coronavirus. Matt Hancock, I'd say, talks about because he was a big fan of the film Contagion,
right,
which came out in 2011, and he's actually on record in the 2021 interview with he was then the UK Health Secretary. Matt Hancock says he got his inspiration from the storyline as he organised the COVID response in the UK, and it actually features terms like social distancing.
Right, conditions features social distancing.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So and they actually used that phrase, which was not a thing at the time. And then there's a classic one about there's really since sort of modern pop culture. There's always lots of alien themed books and TV programs and even music. You got your Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Is that all being used to get you used to aliens? Both in a sinister way of the alien invasion films and also things like E.T. where they're kind of cute and they're kind of nice,
They may be coming, yeah.
So, but yeah, again, it's a thing you could go into forever. The old predictive programming, and maybe if some of our social media following might want to get in touch with any examples I can think of,
Do get in touch. I think the world is built of a lot of coincidences, though, and a lot of these things really are. If you do something enough times, there will be coincidences. And
I just like the idea of things not only echoing into the future, but echoing
into the
past. And perhaps if somebody's very sensitive, they may even subconsciously be aware of us, like the guy that wrote the novel that was very like Titanic. Yeah.
Something to think about, anyway. Interesting. Okay, we'll come back very shortly with our weird shorts. Stay tuned. Yeah, so it's been a funny old time. Liz Truss now is the UK Prime Minister for the time being, anyway. It's not been the best of starts for her as Prime Minister. A couple of days after taking the role, she had to deal with the monarch's death, which must have been a struggle considering some of the anti-monarchy remarks she made in the past. Have you seen some of those?
Yeah, I was back when she was a Lib Dem.
Yeah.
It's just surprisingly, I only realised she's not much older than we are. Like,
right?
Yeah, she's only born in 1975.
Slip of a thing. Yeah. She then launched the new mini budget, which didn't seem to go down well. But the Conservative leader's luck isn't changing when it comes to the socials. Her social media Twitter handle at Liz Truss had already been taken by a woman, Liz Trussell, and this has caused a lot of confusion with opposition MPs and even the Swedish Prime Minister tweeting to the wrong account. Liz Trussell has taken it all well, though. I've had a look at her feed, and she didn't post anything since about 2018, or when Twitter was still good.
Yeah.
And then since by 2018 it went a bit downhill. But since all the new media attention, she started replying to angry messages with comedy. Like this message from the leader of the UK Green Party, Caroline Lucas. She decided to unleash a stinging attack on the next Prime Minister. At Liz Truss still doesn't get it. Boris Johnson did not get Brexit done. His myriad mistakes over COVID cost countless lives, and he leaves having disgraced his office. Meanwhile, she's campaigning as a right-wing ideologue and will govern us as such, which is a disaster for us all. Another Twitter user then chimed in and said, "I bet she likes cake," to which Miss Trussell replied, "I love cake."
I bet, is that some sort of accusation? Like, I bet she likes cake.
That's kind of like,
what? Oh, I suppose like maybe Marie Antoinette or whatever.
That they made cake. But yeah, she's just kind of taking the piss a little bit, this woman. When the Swedish Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson decided to send a message to Liz, it was met with a reply, "Looking forward to a visit soon, get the meatballs ready." Liz Trussell's Twitter feed is pretty amusing. On the day the new PM was appointed, Trussell tweeted, "Phew, what a day," followed the next day by "Grabbed lunch at IKEA UK today and picked up a new cabinet." And her Twitter bio says something like "party leader" or something,
right.
which means like party.
Oh, right,
like
party.
having a party.
Did you say that the Twitter account Liz Truss's disappointed dad?
What? No.
Initially, I thought was like her dad, but
Yeah.
I think it's just some troll.
Disappointed that. Oh, it's just Twitter. I think I don't like
Yeah.
Facebook. Facebook is irritating, but the thing about Facebook, at least you kind of have to pretend to be somebody. You know, you
Yes,
need to
yeah,
have
yeah.
a person behind an account. Whereas on Twitter, they can just go on with any stupid old hashtag and.
N.I. Twitter, enough said.
Oh yeah. So we're nearly coming down with World Cup fever. Yes, apparently World Cup in Qatar kicks off on the 20th of November, but nobody really seems to be bothered about it. But do you remember as a kid collecting those sticker albums? Do you remember the
Oh
Panini
yes,
sticker
yeah.
albums? It was first released back in 1970 when a pack of 4 stickers cost about 5p. It must have been a shilling or something. But with the old dreaded inflation and all, a pack will now set you back an eye-watering 90p. And there are 670 stickers to complete the book. So assuming you buy packs without any repeats, it would cost over 120 quid to fill up the album.
What? Are you serious?
However, so this guy Kieran Maguire on Twitter has taken probability into account, and he says it's more than likely to set fans back a jaw-dropping £883.
That's insane.
If you were to buy them all and not get the repeats and
That
complete
is
the entire book
properly insane.
for a book with stickers
Yeah,
of football.
that is properly insane.
And you wonder why they even bother, but maybe there are people still buy it. And finally, if Chaucer, Dickens, Coleridge and Shakespeare isn't your bag, but you still want to study literature, fear not, because a college course offered by the University of Texas at Austin might be just your thing. The course will focus on the songwriting of pop music icon Taylor Swift to introduce literary critical reading and research methods, basics, skills for work in English literature and other humanities disciplines, according to their website, focusing on Swift's music and cultural context in which it and her career are situated. We'll consider frameworks for understanding her work, such as poetic form, style and history, among various matters and theoretical issues important to contextualizing as we practice close and in-depth reading, evaluating secondary sources and building strong arguments.
That is proper word salad, that is.
Yeah,
that is proper word salad. Loads of words meaning nothing. And they say the academic world is dumbing down. Obviously that refutes that.
Swift received an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts from New York University earlier this year, which previously offered fans a course that studied Swift as a music entrepreneur. Another course being offered by the Texas State University is Harry Styles and the Cult of Celebrity. Identity, the Internet, and European pop culture. It uses the pop star's work to understand the cultural and political development of the modern celebrity.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah. Did Taylor Swift say that?
That was it's not one of her big songs.
I think it probably
Haters
is.
gonna hate. Bum bum bum.
I'm drained by all this.
It's pretty, yeah.
I think we'll have to turn off for another week, but we'll be back next week with another podcast. Talk to you then. Do remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and like this episode. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to Weirdly Enough. Remember to subscribe to get the latest edition as soon as it drops. And don't forget to leave a review. Email us about anything we've discussed or with your own weird tale at podcast@weirdlyenough.com.